We are playing Shipping Up to Boston for our guest from Massachusetts. Deval Patrick is here as we continue our series of conversations with the presidential candidates. He was a two-term Democratic governor of Massachusetts. He served as the Assistant Attorney General of the United States, and he's now a managing partner at Bain Capital. Governor Patrick, welcome to The Issue Is.
It's good to be with you. Thank you for having me, Alex.
Nice to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. So you are.
Thanks for the walk-on music.
Yes, and so that's the Massachusetts song. You actually spent time living here in California.
I did.
And met your wife here in California as well.
That's right. Back in 1982, I came out to clerk for a year on the Ninth Circuit for Steve Reinhardt.
Yeah.
And I met my wife then, and I was on my way to San Francisco, as a matter of fact, to join a firm. And she was asked by the firm she was working for here, having gone to law school and started her practice here in Los Angeles, to move back home for her to New York and help them start their office there. So we decided in the course of that year we wanted to be together, and off we went.
So California's been pretty good to you.
It's been very good. 35 years we've been married this year.
All right, so the presidential campaign, a lot of people, when you look at the polls, say that they're satisfied with the candidates that were there. You're still jumping into the race.
Yes.
What are you not satisfied with? What's the hole? What's missing from the field that you're going to pride?
It's a question I get a lot, but I would just say, first of all, that we were ready to go a little bit more than a year ago, ready to step out. And about 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Elex, my wife was diagnosed with uterine cancer. And it's the sort of thing that just brings your feet back to ground. And I think we did the right thing by paying attention to that and to her. When we celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary in May, she's cancer-free.
Congratulations.
Yes, it's such a blessing. And she's continued to be interested and committed, and we've continued to get encouragement from so many folks, known and unknown. I think when the total stranger reaches out and says, I wish we were in the field, it has a particular impact. I'll also say that having been in New Hampshire and Iowa and Nevada and South Carolina and back again, it is true the other candidates have been out for a while and spent a lot of money and a lot of time, but it is by no means settled. Yeah,
high undecided. So what is your lane? What is the pitch? Why you over everybody else?
Well, look, we are at a moment where we need big responses to big challenges, chronic issues around, we were talking earlier about homelessness, around the cost of health care and the availability of it. And solutions to those kinds of big challenges require that we build bridges. And that's what I've been about, you know, a life and work experience that ranges from poverty on the south side of Chicago, where I grew up, through college and law school, and then in and out of the public and private sectors, solving problems here and abroad.
Do you wish you got in earlier?
I wish that my wife had never had cancer.
Yeah.
I guess is the answer, and there's really no way around that. Frankly, if I thought it had been settled by the time we were ready, I wouldn't have come in.
Let's talk about some of the issues. The biggest debate that we've seen on the debate stage on the Democratic side has been over the issue of health care. And when you were Massachusetts governor, you helped to implement the system that really became the model for Obamacare around the country. Right. Some Democrats say we need to go farther. We need Medicare-for-all. What say you? Well,
look, I think it's interesting. We talk about Medicare-for-all. It's become a slogan for a lot of different ideas. 98 point, I think it is 4 or 6% of the people in Massachusetts have health insurance today without Medicare-for-all. I still don't think there's another state that has gotten that far. Access is a big challenge, and it's a continuing challenge. I think at the federal level, rather than go to Medicare-for-all, I'd rather see a public option. And that public option could well be Medicare. But there is some value in having the tension that comes from government and the private sector trying to solve a similar problem. And I think what we would get from having a public option alongside private insurance is that the private insurance market would start to think of ways to offer a low-cost competitive option. And frankly, Medicare or whatever the public option would think of ways to innovate to make that care better. And I think that's what you have to do to iterate toward the right solution.
The issue that Californians seem to care about most right now is the issue of homelessness. We've got a crisis in this state.
Yes.
What is the federal government's role in solving that? And if you were president, what would that look like?
It's not one thing. At least in our experience back home in Massachusetts, we did something with a new tool called the Social Impact Bond, which is a public-private collaboration on how to experiment with different solutions without putting public money at jeopardy. So you then have a proof point you can show to the legislature. And we did one in homelessness. It was, in this case, chronic individual homelessness. Family homelessness is a different kind of challenge. And we are on the path of eliminating individual homelessness in Massachusetts. It's never one thing. It's shelter, yes. But it's also dealing with the compounding issues. You know, there are sometimes mental health issues, there are substance abuse issues, there's questions about readiness to join the mainstream workforce in terms of, you know, preparation of skills, and a place for him or her when they are prepared. And I think without the wraparound services, some of which, by the way, in our case, were supported by federal subsidies, shelter alone, in many cases, is not going to be enough.
Let's get to know you a bit, right? Because I think there are a lot of people who maybe are unfamiliar with your story, and it's quite a story. You come largely from a single mom, didn't have a super close relationship with your dad growing up. Your dad, a great jazz musician. South side of Chicago, work your way through Harvard, and to the sort of upper echelons of American society, kind of. So what do you want people to know about your story, and so what are the most important lessons we can learn from your example?
Yeah, well, you're right. I did grow up much of that time on welfare on the south side of Chicago. And my mother and sister and I shared one of 2 bedrooms in our grandparents' 2-bedroom tenement. And we had a set of bunk beds. So you go from the top bunk to the bottom bunk to the floor every third night on the floor. I went to big, crowded, under-resourced, sometimes violent public schools, but we had a very strong sense of community because that was a time when every child was under the jurisdiction of every adult on the block. And I think that notion that you have a stake in your neighbor's dreams and struggles as well as your own has been one of the key lessons I've carried with me through my educational and professional life, my personal life for that matter. And another lesson I think we got was, you got it too, we all do from our grandparents, this notion that we're supposed to do in our time what we can to leave things better for those who come behind us, that notion of generational responsibility. And I think those 2 issues are the reason I have brought a reform-minded approach to every assignment I've ever had, and why I've never been willing to leave my conscience at the door.
What would that young Deval who slept in the bunk bed think of Deval today?
He'd probably say, well, I'll tell you the voice of my grandmother I hear, which is, look at you now. But, you know, it's not that I always wanted to be president. Yeah. It's the same way I didn't always want to be a governor. That was the only thing I've run for. It's that it felt like there was a moment where I had a contribution to make that could leave things better. And if we can make of our national politics what we try to do in Massachusetts, which is about everyone everywhere, and not just the folks who are, you know, on your side, but and a humility and a confidence, frankly, being willing to listen to others who have different points of view, we can actually make some progress, and we need some progress.
You know, you've largely blazed a trail as an African-American man. I know you have a close relationship with the former President Barack Obama, who also blazed a trail.
Indeed.
Recently, we saw Kamala Harris drop out of the race, and Cory Booker has talked about the fact that we have more billionaires than black people in this race going forward. Do you think that's an issue? Do you think that the Democratic Party candidates right now are maybe too white when it comes to the debate stage?
Well, it's a tough question in the sense that there are these qualifying standards that the National Party has put in place in order to get on the debate stage. I will say that the diversity of the field is incredibly exciting. It's a different field without Kamala Harris, who I think is an extraordinary public figure, and I hope that and trust that she will continue to contribute in public life. The debate stage itself, I mean, I don't know if you've watched the debates.
Every single one, covered every moment of it.
I have too, and you know, the things you have to do to qualify make perfect sense to me. But actually, the debates themselves, in terms of format, as a way to get to inform the public about where you are and how you think, I'm not sure they've been as helpful as one would like.
So you have not qualified for the next debate, which is here in California. It's hard coming in late because of all the rules to qualify for one of these debates. You also don't have $52 billion like Mike Bloomberg, who seems to air every other TV ad right now on TV.
Yeah.
How do you do this? How do you pull this off, coming in late without that kind of money?
Well, so you make it, in my view, not about me, but about us. You turn the campaign over to your supporters, and you ask them to make it personal. We were talking before going on air about how we had volunteers from every single state in America sign up on the website, devalpatrick2020.com, within 2 or 3 hours of going live on the day I announced. We had those and many more on a conference call the other day, just to tell them about progress and where I am and where we're going, and to ask them what they needed to spread the word and make it personal. And I think that notion of sort of relational organizing, not just geographical, but relational, and making it plain that the campaign and, if I'm elected, my presidency will be about everyone, everywhere. Because it not being that way is one of the reasons I think people feel so alienated from their government today.
It's also fun, though, to get to know about you a little bit.
So
here we have
comes
a game called Personal Issues.
Yes.
This is where we put 30 seconds up on the clock, and we get to know a little bit about you
Do I get
with
to see the
some
clock around here
rapid fire questions. No, it'll be obvious. You'll hear a ding when it's over.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Who's your favorite actor or actress?
Wow. Probably Angela Bassett. On the actress
we love
side.
her. She's on Fox.
Yeah.
Favorite meal?
Ooh, roast chicken.
Favorite athlete of all time?
Probably, runner, Jesse Owens, that's it.
Favorite TV show?
Right now, Black Sails.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
No, I have not.
It's really good.
Dream vacation spot?
There is a remote part of New Zealand that my wife and I have visited a couple of times, which is pretty special.
Wow. And last question, who's your role model?
I have a bunch, but I would say that the person who has had, I mean, there really are a lot, and I've been blessed that way, but the person who maybe has had the most profound, lasting impact on me was my 6th grade teacher, who in that very crowded classroom taught us to count and say the greetings in German. You know, took us to the first opera I'd ever been to. I didn't know what they were singing about. I still don't. I love it today. She took us to a new movie out at the time, Elex, called The Sound of Music, and she used it to teach us about the rise of the Nazis in the Second World War. The first person I remember to really help me imagine, all of us, what it might be like to be a citizen of the world, which is a gift for any kid, I think, but especially a kid from the South Side of Chicago in those days. And she was present when I graduated from college and law school, when I was married, when I was sworn in at the Justice Department. And she would have been present at my inauguration for governor had she lived, but my 3rd grade teacher was there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that shows long-lasting relationships.
Indeed.
Nice to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We like to play music, so I picked one of my favorite songs this week, "Lovely Day" by Bill Withers, which I think is such a good one.
That's a good one.
Up next, husband and wife duo John and Deborah Cobalt right here. Stay with us. More of The Issue Is right after this. And this is where people get to dance if you want to show off here. Yeah. So back to back, the best way. There we go. Nice, very nice.